Okay, next we will learn how to construct histogram, frequency polygon, and ogive. Okay, so the first graphical representation is histogram. Okay, so histogram consists of set of rectangles drawn so that the height of each rectangle is proportional to the frequency in the range covered. Before we construct a histogram, you need to prepare your own graph paper, okay, and a ruler. For example, histogram for runners times. So prepare your own graph paper and then a ruler and a pencil. Okay, so draw y-axis and x-axis using ruler. Okay, and then at the y-axis here for frequency. Okay, so you need to choose the right unit for each frequency. For example, 1 cm for 1 unit, or you can choose 1 cm for 2 units. Depends on you. And for the x-axis here is for the class boundaries. Okay, so class boundaries means that lower boundary and upper boundary for each class. Make sure when you draw a rectangle must be close to each other. Okay, make sure there's no space or no gap, and then you draw each rectangle based on the frequency and the class boundaries in the data. Second graphical representation is frequency polygons. Line of graph of class frequency plotted against class marks or class midpoints. Okay, so frequency polygon for runners times. Okay, example, you must draw the y-axis and the x-axis. For the y-axis here for frequency, okay, and then for the x-axis is for the class midpoints. So you need to calculate the class midpoints first. So you start with the frequency equal to 0. Okay, so that when you draw the frequency polygon, your graph does not hanging. And then based on the class midpoints that you have calculated, and then based on the frequency given in the data, construct the frequency polygon. Okay, the last graphical representation we will learn is ogive. So ogive is a graph showing information from a cumulative frequency distribution table. A cumulative frequency is the total frequency of all values less than the upper class boundary of a given class interval, adding the frequencies all the classes below and until upper class boundary. Okay, so for ogive for runners times, the y-axis stand for cumulative frequency. Okay, and then for x-axis, the class boundaries, the lower boundary and upper boundary for each class. Okay, and then you sketch your ogive based on the cumulative frequency for each class. Example 5. The height measured to the nearest centimeter of 100 bands were recorded. Represent the data by a histogram. So given that the data, the height in cm and the frequency. So we need to construct the data by using histogram. Okay, so first step, you need to sketch the y-axis and the x-axis. Okay, for the y-axis frequency, and for the x-axis for the height in cm. Okay, and then number 2, make sure no gap between the rectangles. Okay, so for the height, lower boundary for each class and the upper boundary for each class. Okay, label the horizontal axis with class boundaries. Okay, lower boundary and upper boundary. And then don't forget to state the topic. For example, height to the nearest cm of 100 bands. You can choose any suitable unit to sketch the frequency and the height. For example, 2 cm for 1 unit or 1 cm for 1 unit. Make sure you use pencil and graph paper.